My name is Peter Xie. I'm the founder of VentureFace, and it's a great pleasure to be here to speak to all of you. And before I go into the topic of distribution strategy guideline for hardware startups, I would like to introduce quickly about my company and what we do. So VentureFace is a Asia Pacific growth building company where we provide consultancy and fast break sales development service to help hardware startups to penetrate the Asia Pacific market. I'm talking about distribution and channels. The reason I started this company, I created this company, is that me personally, I've been in IoT hardware startups for about 8 years. And this question always bothers me. That is, what is next after the crowdfunding shipment, right? So I think nowadays, hardware startups are fortunate enough to have tools like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and then you can have set up web shop and can sell anywhere in the world. But the problem is that along the years, I found that when you have the successful crowdfunding campaign, you only actually target and acquire the innovators and early adopters, right? So for any market, for any technology, you always have this big chasm, that's how we call it, or a gap between the early adopters and the early majority. So as a hardware startup owner, you want to get into the channels and maximize the revenue of your precious innovation, right? But more than too often that we found is just simply either it's a price issue, it's a product issue, it's a product market fit issue. So I figure this is something what we can contribute. Like I said, I have been in the IoT startup for more than 8 years. About 8 years ago, I co-founded one in Taiwan, and we were doing so VentureFace will want to help the customers to close that gap to earn the mass majority market. So this is me. I have 8 years of experiences. I'm the founder of VentureFace, and I co-founded Parfus. This company is still alive. Back then, that's about 8 years ago, we created the world's first Bluetooth module for fitness machines. The technology inside fitness machine is like decades old. It's really, really old. And the problem is that the data cannot be transmitted out to the app. You have to do it manually. So about 8 years ago, co-founded the company, we created a module, and eventually nowadays, there are many fitness machine makers and brands that adapt these solutions as a standard to communicate with the apps and iPhone system, etc. And that experience led me to the retail, where eventually we create a product that I successfully pretty much single-handed sold the product into Apple retail stores in US, and then in Europe, and then in Asia. And then I joined another company several years later as a sales director. We were doing Bluetooth safety wristband for kids. And this kind of record I created that in 12 months from zero, I pretty much did more than close to 400,000 international sales in the Asia Pacific region. Right. So my team has similar experiences like me. So we are from these brands, and also a member from GE Lightning, used to be in the senior position in GE Lightning. And so we are here to help you, to help hardware startups to actually get into the channels. And there's a lot to do, there's a lot to change after the crowdfunding campaign or after your first batch shipment. All right, so what we do is we do go-to-market consultancy and also the fast break APAC growth building service, where you can leverage our extensive sales network and connections to the channels. So that's about it. That's about what we do. So today, the topic is the distribution strategy guideline for hardware startups. And I figure there's no better way to explain the basics and fundamentals by these, 4W1H. So why, how, what, when, and where, right? So in each of these, I will use a simple question, but I think that's the core and key question that you need to know before actually going to the distribution. So why is distribution necessary? Right? That's obviously the core question. Why do we need, as a startup, you need distribution? So the reason is that, again, back to the this graph, you have, whenever there's a new technology or new product, you have innovators all the way to early adopters, majority, and late majority, right? So there's a big gap here, like I said. And when you successfully had a crowdfunding campaign or whatever pre-order campaign you have, these customers are mostly acquired online, right? So the tools and methodology is you place some marketing dollar, you collect the list, and you try to make the most out of it. But the issue is it only accounts for 5%, maybe less than 5% of your, like, the total potential of your product innovation. So 80% is on the majority. But just remember, the people, like the majority, I'm talking about average people. I'm talking about your grandma, your grandpa, right? They are not early adopters who just give you money. They don't even see the product yet. They go on Kickstarter, they go on Indiegogo, they see the image, see the video, they're happy. They pull out the credit card and pay you. And that's not the case in the early majority market. So these people are mostly earned offline, right? So key concept here is that 5% versus 80%. You need to cross that gap. And in today's world, even we have these fantastic tools, online marketing, online retailing, you still need that, right? And the offline channel can only be earned instead of be acquired. So key concept is that 5% versus 80%. And these people, you can acquire them online, but by the way, they are not frequent buyers. They probably just give you one order, just buy your product once, and they will probably not follow you. So 80% of the majority user, 80% of your total market is earned offline. So you need the distribution channels to get to that. And also, this is a data that is the US online retail as a share of the total retail sales. So as big as Amazon, in overall, the US online retail still has only less than 10% of the total US retail. Now, we all know in countries like US, the retail is really, really bad. The business is bad right now. But as you look at the data, if we are talking about you are selling the stuff online on Amazon, you should always do that first. But don't forget, if you want to scale up your business, you still need to have the distribution channel. You still need to have the retail stores. And because if you only do online, you will only get from the total potential of your innovation is less than 10%, right? In the electronics, this number is actually about 20-something%, but still, it's only 20-something%, right? So more data from the other region, EU. UK is the most advanced country in terms of online retailing. Still, it's less than 20%. And if we look at Asia, it's the same, even lower. So for countries like South Korea is higher, China, of course, is higher. But if you look at Japan, I think everybody will be surprised that online retail in Japan is so advanced. But from our experiences and from all the distribution business people, they will tell you most of the revenue, if you are doing in a scalable way, is still coming from offline distribution, right? So that's kind of why you need distribution. You need distribution to scale up. If you only do online, you are limiting your growth, actually. So next, we move to how. Like, how do I know I'm ready? How do you know you are ready for distribution? Right? So how do you know? Or in other words, how do you get ready? So very simple, very basic. You need to get your 5 Ps right. Now, everybody has ever studied or read a book of marketing will know this. Right? But too often that as a product creator, we forget all about these basics. So in 5 Ps, you have product, package, price, place, and promotion. I will explain point by point later and give you some examples to elaborate the concept, the key guideline you need to follow in order to get your things right. So number one, I'll talk about the product. Now this is, by the way, this is not the theory I invented. This is from a book like decades ago. It's called whole product concept, right? So in the center you have, let's say you have an innovation, that's what we call generic product, and then you have expected product, you have augmented product, and then you have potential product. The reason this concept for any hardware startup before you go to the distribution is very important is because that this is your sort of methodology to pave the way to grow your company, to actually roll out your new products. So let me give you a very simple example. Basic generic product is like MacBook, right? You buy a MacBook, you get the stuff. That's MacBook. Expected product is the complete useful scenario around the product. Can you imagine you buy a MacBook, but there's no display? It's not usable, right? So you buy a MacBook, expected product is the keyboard and display. And augmented product is the physical or non-physical extension of the actual product. So you buy a MacBook, you're happy, but you think, wow, it probably will be broken. So what do? You buy an Apple Care, right? So Apple Care is the insurance. So that's augmented product. It's not the actual product, but it's the extension of the product. And then you have potential product. So in this example, you buy the MacBook, and then you have the Apple Care, and next thing you buy is what? Magic mouse, the trackpad. That's the potential product. Now, you might say, Apple is a huge company. There's no need to educate the market. Everybody knows Apple. But think about if you're a hardware startup, and imagine if you are a drone company, right? So what's the generic product? It's the drone itself. Let's say you have a very small, compact drone, right? But that's not enough. You have to productize it as a way to be expected product that, okay, this is the drone, and you need to make the material saying that, oh, this is how you use it, and this is why you need it. This is the wonderful things that will happen to you when you buy the product, right? And you need to do maybe in-store display to talk about all this. You need to go to trade shows to explain all this, right? And the augmented product, what is that? Then you find out, wow, a lot of people are buying my drone. And the next thing they are afraid of is it got broken, right? So you provide a warranty service, 1 year, 2 year, to do the replacement and to fix their drones if they are broken. So that's augmented product. So what is potential product? Okay, so let's say this drone is controlled by app, and you can do it easily on the iPhone, right? But you come up with a remote, right, accessory, that can make it even easier to control the drone, to make the experience more wonderful. So that's the potential product. This is very important concept because a lot of times when you create a hardware startup, you only have one innovation, a core innovation, and you probably only have one model and 3 colors, and that's it. This is simply not enough for distribution. So before you go into the distribution, you have to think this is actually your product roadmap. You need to use this concept to actually go step by step and form a portfolio from your innovation so that the majority market and the distributor, they can accept, they can understand what your product does and what you will see in the 3-5 years down the road. They can understand you don't have the next generation product yet, but you need to be able to tell them, this is what we're going to do. This is the roadmap. Okay. So that's the product. Second thing is the package. Now, I know it sounds really like, oh man, this is really basic, but many times that we forget about basics. In distribution and retail, package is so important, it's so critical because that's the only salesman you have in the store. That's the only thing you have. So here we have good two examples. Withings, a French brand, I think last year or 2015 acquired by Nokia. It's Nokia right now. TileMate is a Bluetooth find key device. It's an American company. So look at this package. This is their retail package. Right? And their brand, the image, beautiful, and so simple, right? So in this case, it says Bluetooth connected wireless blood pressure monitor. Now, if you're not the target buyer, you walk through the shelf and you look at this, you might not want to buy it, but at least you won't be confused what it does. So package is really important for any retail and distribution. Please get it right, before going to distribution. And this is another example, Selfrule, another very famous company from US. So let's look at the package just a little bit. So you got the product in the center. You see these dots? So visually, it already tells you what it does. It moves, and it's controlled by iPhone, the app. And the screen, it shows, oh, there's a control, so you won't be confused, right? So key concept and guidelines for your package is that you need to make it simple, explicit, and graphical. Simple is your customer walk by, they only spend about 10 seconds on your package. They take it out of shelf, look at it. If they cannot understand within 10 seconds, you just put it back, right? So simple package and explicit package design, which clearly states, do not imply, just tell directly, this is what I do, the product. What your product does, that will create a longer viewing time and sales conversion rate, okay? So no matter what you do, no matter what product you sell, please get your package right. It's so important. I cannot emphasize enough. All right, so I will explain the price and promotion within this question, within the answer to this question. What are the requirements from the channels, right? So I'm talking about price and promotion. And these two P's have everything to do with the distribution and the channel. So when you want to go to the international distribution price structure, this is the structure you need to have, right? So we have three people here. You as a seller or brand or a startup, and then we have local distributor, and then we have retail store. Now this is the assumption that I made that if you want to sell your own branded product, right? You are not ODM, OEM, you want to sell your own branded product. And let's say your retail price is $100 US. So about 35%, sometimes 40% goes to the retail store, right? And about $25 is going to the local distributor who buy from you in bulk, right? So that's what we call distribution. And then they resell to the stores. And you get about 35-40% of your retail price. So now we have a structure here. Your retail price is $100 US. So this graph actually simplifies the situation. In reality, we have shipping costs, insurance, import tax, all that, right? But just to make it simple so that you can understand. So your FOB price compared with the retail price, the retail price needs to be at least minimum 2.5 times than your retail price. Otherwise, those guys, they can't buy from you. They can't because they are not profitable, right? And your retail price needs to be at least 4 times minimum, again, than your factory cost. This is so important. Please keep in mind of this price structure. And also, very important thing is that 2.5 times and 4 times is actually the minimum. The healthier status is retail price is about 3 to 5 times than your FOB price, right? And retail price is about 5 or even 6 times more than your factory cost, right? So where is your profit? Your price is between FOB price and the factory cost, right? Basically. So a lot of people will ask me that, oh, Peter, $100 for my retail price. I want to lower the retail price, as much as possible so that I can sell directly to the consumer. I don't want the middle guys, right? It will be wonderful, but it's simply not the case. So what do you do when there's not enough margin for the distributor? What if your cost is simply too high, or you simply want to lower the retail price as much as possible? So there are basically 2 ways. Number 1 is, of course, you sacrifice the margin, lower the FOB price in order to get in, right? No matter what, you need to get the deal. Or you can lower the factory cost, right? If you can. But when you start, your quantity is low. So the factory cannot give you a better cost, right? So what do? The only way you can do it to make it work is when you go to the international distribution, $100 is your US retail price. But in different countries, you will have different customers and distributors. So you raise that retail price a little bit to make enough margin for the channel partners. And I know how it sounds. You will think, wow, this is, I don't want to, bring up my retail price to the end customers. But remember, you have to go through these guys to actually reach to the end customers in the market. Let's say in Japan or Thailand or US, whatever. So keep in mind. All right, so that's about price. And about promotion, a very simple guideline concept is at this point. So when you are a startup, you don't have any marketing budget. That's basically the case, right? So you rely on your product and the value of your product. That's all good. But don't forget what we talk about, the basic product, expected product, augmented product. And when it comes to promotion, the distribution customer and channel, they will ask you, where is your marketing dollar? How do I promote this? Right? So the key concept here is you keep it lean. You focus on the basics, the POP, the in-store display, like this one. It's a 360 fly camera from US, right? So this is one of their, this is actually taken by me in Thailand, right, in the store. So the brochure, the basics, you need to make them right. Make the material ready so the distributor, the customers, the stores, they can use it right away. Okay? And you spend from your own pocket the actual sales. A good example is that, so let's say you don't have any marketing dollar, right? And you sell the product, accumulatively in, let's say, Thailand for $8,000 US. And then, because you already have some sales, so you use that 5 or 10% from the sales to invest on the future. So spend from your own pocket, right? So you don't have to spend additional marketing dollar. Also, start with fewer stores, not many. It depends on your resource, but most of the time, we all want to do Apple, we all want to do Best Buy, but most of the times, for most companies, it's just not easy. So what I would suggest to customers is that whenever you have the distribution opportunity, if the customers say, okay, I want to buy from you, put in 1,000 stores, you might want to think about that twice. You might want to tell him, maybe let's start with 200, right? And let's get the sell-through, the actual sell-through in the 200 stores right. Because that will reduce the risk for you and for the distribution customer. And finally, create a sell-through. Whenever there's a sell-through in the channels, you have to prove it with your customers. Prove that your innovation and products can actually generate the sell-through. So sell-through means, As a hardware startup, I sell to the distributor sell to the retail store sell to the consumer. So if you sell into the distributor, but there is no sell-through along the channels, then there's no repeat order for you. So that's what sales through means. So you have to create that sell through in order to get repeat sales, all right? So focus on these things. All right, so when is the right time to plan for distribution? Short answer, as early as possible. But for you to better understand the whole concept, I think I create some sort of like a process graph so you can understand. So what usually happens right now as a hardware startups, you have a fantastic idea, right? And you got excited. You have some friends and partners. And then you think about, wow, this is a total addressable market for that innovation. We're so excited. Let's do it. I said, let's do it. And then what you do is you use crowdfunding and you're building prototype. You do this at the same time. Now, again, crowdfunding is, I would say in these days, is a must. If the innovation has a really big potential, it's a must. But what happened is, after crowdfunding, you ship out the products. But what's next? What's next? Then you will search about the majority market and you plan for, what kind of channels I can sell to? And then you're approaching the channels. Right? This is what usually happens right now. There are two problems here. And these two problems might cause you the death of your company. Problem one is the total addressable market and the majority market. Majority market actually accounts a lot of the total addressable market. So it's actually the same thing. But the research is done too late. You do it after the crowdfunding, right? After you build the product. And the problem number two is if your prototype, which the early adopter, they buy from you, if that doesn't fit with the mass market channel, then it's deadly. You maybe need to change even the form factor. It's the time, 6 months, 1 year, back and forth the cost. We are making hardware products. We are not making software, right? So there are two problems here that will cause you maybe the death of the company, right? So what is a better way? I think this is a better way, based on our experiences. You have an idea, innovation, you research the mass market, you do the research right from the beginning, as early as possible. While you were doing the crowdfunding, the prototyping, and then you also plan the channel. So the reason this makes sense is because, again, crowdfunding or pre-order online is for the early adopter market. These people are not the same with the mass market consumers. So you need to plan simultaneously and try to tweak the product along the way to minimize the cost and the time to market, right? So when you do that, after crowdfunding the shipment, you will already have some ideas of what kind of channel you have to talk to. Where are the potential distributors? And you also have a chance to actually modify your products or create your products for the mass market. And then you can reach that big dream. So a key concept is that the TAM, the total addressable market, you know what, is actually mostly decided by your channels and your partners, not decided by your innovation. Yeah, please remember this concept. All right, so last but not the least, where should I start first? So now it comes to where. So here I will talk about the market, a little bit about market selection. Right? When you go to distribution, you meet so many buyers from so many countries. Where should you start? Right? There is no definite answer to that. But what I'm about to say here is that a general concept and guideline for you guys so that you will understand a little bit more about distribution. The short answer is to start in your home market, except for US and China. I will explain this later for US and China, okay? In the slides later. So what I mean is, if you are from Hong Kong, start with Hong Kong. If you are from Japan, start with Japan. From Korea, start with Korea. Because your company is there, you have people there. If there's any problem with the customers in the channels and the stores, they call you, you have people. You can respond them, right? But except for US and China, because US is a big retail market. So what I'm talking about is distribution and retail. I am not saying you shouldn't do Amazon online right away, right from the beginning. You should. I think you should. But what I'm talking about is retail. Because in US and China specifically, from our team's experience, is that it's just too hard, right? Apple or Best Buy buys from you in thousands of units. You don't even have the cash to produce the products, to eat the inventory, to fulfill the order, right? And the same in China. The distribution channels and tiers are very complicated in China. So if you want to start with China, I would recommend online first. That's what we recommend. So a key point I want to mention here is I think APAC is actually friendlier for hardware startups based on these reasons. Number one, ease of trading. Yeah, we are in Asia. Every country we do trading. It's the nature of the business, right? So you're selling hardware. The old school way is still very useful. And second, better payment term. From my experiences and my team's experiences, in Asia Pacific countries, when you talk to distributors, they can give you much, much better payment terms. The worst terms I get so far is 60 days. So 60 days, next 60 days after they got the products, they'll pay full. That's the worst term I get so far. In most cases, at least in the first few orders, they will pay you 100% before shipment. It's possible. Or at least they can pay you some sort of down payment, right? This is not, I'm afraid, there are many Western friends here, but I'm just saying, from my experiences, it's simply not possible. This is simply not possible in US or in Europe and sometimes in China. So you want to survive as a hardware startup, APAC is a little bit easier. Also, distributed risk and sales. So multiple countries constitutes your overall sales. Let's say you have 8 countries in Asia and you have 1 US market. So sometimes the revenue in US is still a little bit higher. But think about if you lost 1 US country, the sales. Again, I'm talking about retail. I'm not talking about online. Compared with you lost 1 Asia Pacific country, you can take the hit, right? As a company, you can stay alive. So you have backups. And last is the quicker to penetrate and easier to manage. This is especially true for Asian hardware startups. It's just easier. If there's a problem in any country, within 3-4 hours, you'll be there. You solve the problems, talk to the customers, hit the stores, whatever. And one team can manage the whole Asia Pacific, geographically desirable for any kind of issue, right? But of course, this is not true for US startup or European startups. So rule number 1 is start in your home market. Rule number 2 is, I think Asia Pacific is a lot friendlier. And as a matter of fact, one of the VentureFace customers, a wireless charging brand called Bezalel from Los Angeles, we started helping them this January. Until now, from 0 in Asia Pacific, we got them 6 country distribution. All the sales PO we got so far, 100% prepaid. This is simply easier and friendly. It's just easier for any hardware startups. And last but not least, about the market selection. Now, this, because we do Asia, so we'll only talk about Asia here. The first Asia Pacific market choice by retail price range. This is a general rule again, because everybody's product and price is different. But basically, if your retail price is more than $150 US, the more advanced countries with higher income will be easier for you. Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, and South Korea. More advanced territories, markets. About $50 to $150, these 4 categories, Taiwan, China, Thailand, Malaysia, should be okay. If your innovation is a case or whatever, it's less than $50 retail price, just go to these countries. So if you have a product more than $150 retail price, don't bother going to this country, all right? Don't bother, it's just too hard. So when you select the first Asia Pacific market, just be aware of this general rule. Okay. All right, that's about it. And this is my email and phone number and my WeChat. Feel free to scan and add me on WeChat. And I've been here for a few days and I've seen a lot of good hardware startups, fantastic products. And if you think your company is really have a good innovation and wants to expand in Asia Pacific, please come to me. We can have a talk. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? So for more questions, you feel very welcome to ask him directly at the floor. So thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.